Right, the Bruins game, I actually missed the first 10 minutes. I think I might have missed a couple of chances, but nothing too important, I don't think. Marian Hossa made his debut this game, and you could tell that he hadn't played with these teammates before. Everything he did was a little bit tentative. He wasn't sure when to make the passes, when his teammates were comfortable receiving it, and when he should be expecting it from his teammates. Unfortunately, the first thing I saw in the game was the Bruins going 1-0 up, so it didn't really give me the best of starts to watching it. Not long after that, Hossa left the game with an injury, and we haven't seen him yet again. We were 2-0 down, I think, at the end of the first period, and we were just really lacking any jump. I think the team was still reeling from the whole big trade. You can't use it as an excuse, but I think it's a fairly obvious reason. Started to get together a bit more after Fleury came in there at 3-0 down. We just needed to get more bodies in front of the net, and because Tim Thomas, he's having until very recently he was having a great season, not letting in a lot, and if he can see all the shots, he's going to stop them. You need to get bodies in the way so he can't see what's coming at him. Physicality is really underrated in a skillful team. In some games earlier this season, I think it might have been the West Coast games, we actually used the third and fourth lines to start a couple of games and a couple of periods, and it really got us a lot of momentum. We gave the players on the bench that confidence to move forward and not be too worried about getting crushed because the other team were already on the back foot, and we stopped doing that, which is really disappointing. I think we need to look at picking that up. Sens game and the Thrashers game, I think it was Saturday and Sunday. I didn't actually see the game. I saw a couple of the highlights, so I can't really comment too much, but the first goal against the Senators was pretty special. Malkin stole it in his own end, drove up the ice, played the puck to Sikora, he dropped it off, Malkin then fed Bugsy first time for the tip-in. If you haven't seen it, you've got to check it out, it's absolutely brilliant. There were a couple of more short-handed chances. I think I mentioned it in the last video. We're giving up short-handed chances. Alfredson scored on one, and Kelly very nearly did. We've got to watch that. You want to be successful on your power play. You want to be aggressive and get those shots in, and look to score. But you can't be giving up too many short-handed chances because that can be a real game turner. Got the win against the Thrashers, albeit in the shootout, but that's all that matters. The Thrashers aren't really much of a threat, so giving them a point's not too bad as long as we get the two. But a whole host of former Penguins that game: Kwiatkowski, Recchi, Christensen, Armstrong and Thorburn, so it was nice to get one over on those guys. I'm sure they were trying a bit extra against us. Tampa Bay game, Crosby was back, which is great news. Took a while for the game to get going, apart from Sid actually had a chance on his very first shift, but he couldn't quite put it in. The first 10 minutes, not a lot happened. We later on in the period, we followed up a good penalty kill with Orpik feeding Crosby on a breakaway. I say feeding Crosby, you could see him motioning, pass me back, and he got through on the breakaway, but he couldn't put it in. He's not really found his shooting boots yet, if you like, to coin a soccer term. The game was all about Crosby. He might not have had a great game, but he was just getting on the puck loads, he was skating around with it, he was feeding, he was dropping passes. He was dishing it off as if he'd never been gone, but still wasn't, you could tell that it wasn't quite all there. He wasn't quite back in, didn't have his game head on quite yet. The best chance actually of the game, I think, came with Sikora on the penalty shot. He was hauled down on the way in, but he never looked like he was going to beat Smith on that one. He was stoned on the backhand. Pretty uneventful third period until Le Cavalier was sprung on a breakaway. He's always hanging around up ice, Le Cavalier. Well, not always, because he's a great defensive player as well, but he's quite often found hanging up the ice looking for that pass, and he got it, but Fleury prevented him. Sid finally made a telling play. Dupuis and Talbot went to the net after Max had dropped it to Sid, and Sid just fed it in front, and there was Talbot to knock it home. Malcolm finished it off with an empty net goal. A great play from Talbot actually, with a hand pass in the defensive zone, which of course is legal, to give Malcolm the chance to break out and have that empty net goal. 35 saves for Fleury on the shutout. Great to see him back and stopping those pucks. Panthers game, Fleury in net again. Not a good start for us. Booth got the Cats on the board. Malcolm wasn't tracking back, and he was able to one-time it home. Not long after that, Larak and Belak teed off straight off a face-off. you know, they're great in a game maybe against the Flyers when you've got both sets of supporters kind of almost willing it to happen. But straight off a face-off when you're on the road, I don't like having a fight because you haven't got the crowd to get behind you. If you have a fight, if you build up pressure and build up that aggression through a shift, it gives the team momentum, and then you have that fight, it gives the team more momentum. If you just fight straight off a face-off, the momentum you get is from the crowd, and we're not going to get that on the road, so it was disappointing. Seconds later, 2-0 to Florida. Whitney again out-muscled in front of the net. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but you know, I'm not too happy with Whitney's physicality at the moment. Luckily we got together just before the end of the period, and our own little crease monkey, Ryan Malone, was on the doorstep once again to put in a rebound from a Halgill shot. That was nice. Second period started, of course it's 3-1 now. Fleury out, Conklin in. You know, I don't know what's going on with Terrien and Fleury. He never really gives him a chance. Okay, he wasn't playing great, but you've got to just leave him in the net. I think if he gives up another goal and make it to 4, okay, it's another 3-goal lead, but it happened anyway when Conklin got in. I think he just needs to be more patient with him. The third period started with Crosby making an obvious effort to be more physical, finished a few checks, but we couldn't carry it through. You know, it's almost as if no one had told anyone to do it. Crosby just took it on his own and didn't, you know, no one else was told to go out there and be more physical. The forecheck's often there when they're in their defensive zone, the other team, but it's nowhere near physical enough. It's pitiful, quite frankly. It's horrible to watch. We lost the game 5-2 on, I think they got an empty net goal towards the end of the game. I have to say I was really, really impressed with Booth, the Panthers. He's quick, he's dynamic, he's direct, he's got good hands, some good speed, and he shoots the puck. He just goes straight for it, which is, you know, almost what the Penguins are looking for to play with Sid. Hopefully though Hossa can make that difference though. Some keys for the remainder of the season, the playoffs, in my opinion. Hossa needs to get back and get some chemistry with Sid. He needs to cycle the puck more. He needs more intense and more physical on the forecheck. Gary Roberts' return, that will help the forecheck and the physicality. He needs to come back. We need his experience, we need his physicality, we need his in-your-face nature. We need to hit more and be more physical around our own net, and we need to give Fleury more protection and give him the chance to get in the groove.